member from Calgary-McCall.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak to the speech from the throne that was delivered last week at the beginning of the session. And in general, this speech sets out the priorities for the government, their work for coming session, and all those things that matter to Albertans, matter to our constituents, and it's an important document. However, I think they started this speech that it rests on three things. First, a relentless focus on policies that are designed to create jobs. Province right to control their natural resources, and third, making life better for Albertan, for supporting health and education for the most vulnerable in our society. But when we look at these three things in a week, I think their relentless focus has remained on policies that do exactly the opposite of creating jobs. Their focus has been relentless on policies that do exactly opposite of promoting growth. Their focus has been relentless on policies that do exactly opposite of economic diversification. Their focus has been relentless to destroy the investor confidence. And why I say that? We can look at their bills. Carbon Tax Repeal Act. They said that this bill somehow creates 6,000 jobs. And in the last session of 29th legislature, they will always come up with numbers that how many Albertans are unemployed. And I think often a number they will use, depending on the day they will use any number, but the number they will use was 180,000 Albertans are unemployed. With that plan, climate leadership plan, there were 7,300 jobs that have been put on risk. So somewhere 187,000 Albertans now are out of the job. In terms of economic diversification, just take our energy industry. We focused on making sure that we get value for our products and we find new markets. And by repealing that climate leadership plan, we are risking the approval, we are risking progress on Trans Mountain Pipeline, which will give us access to West Coast and other markets. So they said they will focus on diversification, but their actions so far are just taking us away from diversification. Second priority, they said they will stand for the province's right to control and develop natural resources freely. And this requires securing pipeline. As I said, that for a long time, even before our government, Conservatives were here in this province for 44 years. They were in federal government before this government for 10 years, and they were not able to secure a pipeline. And reason for that can be seen in court decisions with respect to Energy East and many other cases. Two themes will emerge. One is that their efforts have fallen short with respect to environment. They never took a concrete action on environment that will lead to securing Alberta pipeline. And they also walked roughshod on Indigenous rights. Our consultation always fell short. So these are the two major things that were always in the way of us securing a pipeline. And now again, finally, when we had a plan, climate leadership plan, that was getting the job done, that was putting a cap on emissions, that involved working with the industry, and came up with a plan that would help us secure that pipeline. Now we are seeing that they are reversing all that progress, and that will certainly not help them achieve the priorities that they said that their government will focus on. So their focus so far in a week has been completely in the opposite direction. With respect to getting our resources to market, we signed a deal which involved having more rail cars so that we can ship somewhere close to 125,000 barrels a day to markets. And those agreements were worth billions of dollars in terms of economic return for Albertans, somewhere $6 billion. And they are threatening to cancel those contracts. Again, by canceling those contracts, what will happen? That we will not have the takeaway capacity that our industry needs. We will not be able to access markets because in our pipeline system, we do not have enough capacity. So those were the things that were helping us get our resources freely and fairly to the national and international markets. So they are taking all those steps that will keep us away from those markets. So again, disappointing that what they said in the throne speech that they will do, and so far what they have done is completely opposite of what's been stated there in the throne speech. They said that they will make life better for all Albertans by ensuring quality and effectiveness of our public service, especially in healthcare and education, and by supporting the most vulnerable in our society. So let's unpack that one. One thing for sure, that whatever they have done so far, that's not making life better for all Albertans. Their legislation that's before the House that proposes to cut from 12% to 8%, giving $4 billion plus in corporate tax break, that is not for all Albertans. It's just going to few wealthy corporation, profitable Albertans. There is nothing in that tax break for 90+% of Albertans living in this province. And they said they will maintain quality service, public service, especially in health and education. We have seen at least on 3 different occasions that opposition has asked Minister of Education whether they will fund the 15,000 new students who are walking through our doors, and every time answer we hear is we will either maintain or increase, whatever that means. But maintaining funding is effectively a cut because 15,000 new students are coming through our doors, school doors, and we are saying that we will not provide more dollars for those for their educational resources. So I'm not sure how that's making life better for all Albertans. In fact, these actions, by not funding education, we are not at all making life better for those who are entering our school system, for those parents. We are actually making them concerned about the future of their kids, about the education of their children, and that's not by any stretch making life better for these Albertans. With respect to health care, we heard the same thing. Either they will maintain or they will increase, but they don't know. And for all these decisions, Albertans gave them a mandate, elected them, but they put together a panel so that will look at all these things and make decisions for them. When we were in charge of Treasury, I remember that our Minister of Finance then, an MLA for Calgary-Buffalo, before every session, he will himself consult with Albertans across this province. And he will ask all the members of Executive Council then to reach out to their respective stakeholders and ask about their priorities, ask about their concerns, ask about their issues, ask them what they want to see in the budget. That's how we were setting budget, but this have somebody, they got help from someone in Saskatchewan who have a very firm track record of blowing up hospitals across that province. So they're waiting for that report, so they will tell at that point to education, to school system, to Board of Trustees, and all those parents that whether they will be able to fund education or not. So all these three priorities, three pillars, so far what they have done, so far what they have indicated, they are doing exactly opposite of what they said in the throne speech that they will do. Then they also identified that they will bring certain bills. They brought forward Bill 1, Carbon Tax Repeal Act, as part of, as indicated in the throne speech. And what that bill did, that it will, if passed, will reverse the progress that was made under the previous government. And somehow it says that it's providing $1.4 billion in tax relief, and makes everything more affordable for Albertans. But what it doesn't say here, that it will take $600 to $700 million, that 2/3 of every Albertans, everyday Albertans, that they were getting in rebate that was making their life affordable, they are taking away those rebates from Albertans. It's taking away from many organizations who have invested in renewable energy projects. It's driving investment away that was coming to Alberta in renewables, that was coming to Alberta in green tech, in all those projects. So that bill, sure, they promised it, they brought it, but this is the impact of that bill that Albertans have to live with. And then it also says that it will take legal action to protect Albertans from federal carbon tax. Madam Speaker, a week ago or so, we heard from Saskatchewan Court of Appeal. The province of Saskatchewan exactly did that they wanted to challenge the authority of federal government, that whether they can bring that carbon tax and they can impose that carbon tax on provinces as a backstop legislation. The way federal legislation works, that if some province have their own climate leadership plan that is somewhat equivalent to what federal government wants to do, that will stand. Otherwise, federal legislation applies as a backstop. So Saskatchewan did the same thing. They brought a reference to their Court of Appeal, the highest court within the province, and court ruled that, yes, federal government can do that. And if we were to ask the same question, because it's the same analysis, whether federal government has power or not,
Any
we would
comments or
get